I have a lifetime of struggling through multiple medical and mental health misdiagnoses to only be diagnosed with autism at the age of 35. There's a word for girls like me, the lost girls. Girls who are misunderstood, misdiagnosed, and completely missed despite us screaming and asking for help all of our lives. I had been so amazing at collecting labels for myself. Depression, anxiety, schizophrenia. I am particularly proud of that one because I got diagnosed with it in 15 minutes at the emergency ward. Just so you know, that should never happen to anyone. Followed by that, I was told that I was bipolar. I had schizoaffective disorder. I have borderline personality. Someone had even suggested that I could be a sociopath. And these are all just my formal diagnoses. I haven't even told you about the monster that people tell me that I am. Not for the lack of trying, I've met countless amount of psychiatrists, therapists, the good ones, the bad ones, the quack ones. I've seen bomos, shamans, and I've even been put into the psychiatric ward. And I've been given multiple sessions of electroconvulsive treatment so that I could be functional. I have been bullied, sexually harassed, and I have been told that I am beyond saving more times than I care to remember. I have also found myself in the emergency ward more than I ever want to remember. There's a code for girls. No, actually, there's a code for people like me in the emergency ward. We are your patient code black. And if you're in the medical field, you would know what it is. And I actually think my slides are not working. Yeah, sorry. And in turn, I became an extremely brilliant actor. It is a common narrative for girls like me that we are amazing at camouflaging and masking. And I've been so good into believing all these labels about myself that I became so lost in my identity. I didn't know where Beatrice starts and where Beatrice ends, and the roles that society expect me to be start and end to. I stuck in friendships that I don't enjoy. I was in relationships that I didn't know how to deal with people that I will go to the end of the earth for, only to find out that people don't feel the same about me. I've been in relationships that are toxic, abusive, and I keep telling myself to hang on. This is the best that you can get. My relationship with my family disintegrates before my very eyes. Until today, I don't know who to put in my emergency contact. And I remember the day that the neuropsychologist sat me down and gave me my diagnosis and told me, "You are autistic." I was freaking out and I asked her, "So what now? Where do I go from here?" Did you know that in statistics, girls like me are 9 times at risk and higher to die by suicide? And at that point, I had probably been in the emergency for more times for attempts of suicide than anyone that I know. So what exactly is autism? We hear about autism so often over the media, from doctors, through a medical lens, that this are a group of people with a disorder. We describe autism through language of deficits and impairment, that they are not enough. We say that they have a deficit in social communication, they have a deficit in their interests, they have repetitive behaviors, and they need to be fixed. They are not normal. Even the term autism spectrum disorder suggests that we need to fix them so that they can be complete and function as a full-fledged human being in society. And we all know that even though you can't cure autism, it's not a disease, but we could still never move away from our gaze of looking at the autism instead of the person. We've never asked ourselves, why are we trying to fix the autism instead of supporting the person who is autistic? When society also tells you that you can't go to school because you're not like any other children, we need to train you up to 40 hours a week so that you can behave like normal children to be able to get education. Society also tells you that you should not be who you are, that you should hide who you are as the autistic person that you are. Society shames you for being an autistic. Society shames me for being different. And we often speak so much about autism as a tragedy. We speak of how awful it must be for the family. We amplify these views everywhere, and we repeat it so often that it becomes the only narrative of autism that you and I know, that even I myself as an autistic person believes it. And I see it in the autistic youth that I speak to almost every day, that they are not enough. We tell the autistic people that you are not good enough to be normal in training programs, in textbooks, in programs. We produce trainings to say, you need to come to this training so that you can be better. But for who? We put autistic children in shopping malls to perform as if they are penguins. And then we pat ourselves on the back when you buy a cookie from them. And when we research autism, we talk about autistic people as exhibit A and exhibit B. Because of this prevailing view of autism, we often forget that autistic individuals are also a person with dignity, and they have their own autonomy of mind. The only version of autism that we seem to delight and expect are the likes of Sheldon Cooper, Anthony Hopkins, The Good Doctor, or The Rain Man. That's my favorite reference. They're male, Caucasian, fictitious, most of them. Girls like me, Asian, female, loud, children who never got a chance to be who they are, children who can't go to school. Where are we in the narrative of autism? And I want you to do this with me. I want each and every one of you here to close your eyes and imagine looking into the mirror at your own reflection and repeat after me. I am not normal. I am suffering from this. I am not enough. I am a burden. And I don't belong. Now open your eyes. Take a moment and tell me, how do you feel about yourself now? Imagine hearing this about yourself every day for the rest of your life. This is the reality of those of us autistic people, of what we here are being told and said about us. It is a big part of our life experience, and it's the one big thing that disables us more than my autism. And that is also the power of language and how it shapes our worldview, how we see things and people, and the most important, how it actually shapes our identity. And an identity is so important to the autistic person, because my autism didn't come with me in a bag that I could put down when it's too heavy for me to keep carrying it. My autism didn't walk with me into a room. Autism is inherently inside me, who I am, and a part of my identity. I am an autistic person. And autism sits in such a unique space in medicine, science, psychology, because what starts out as a medical diagnosis is cared for and supported for the rest of our lives through mental health support and the culture that we shape on how do we want to interpret and accept autism. And this amplifies the very idea that we must begin to look at autism as a disability from the social model, because it is the environment that I lived in that stops me from participating in life. It is how people view me that increases the stigma and ostracization and discrimination against the autistic community. The burden is not on me to change, because I am but 1% of the population. Why is the onus of the responsibility on my shoulders when we can change the environment and the society that we lived in? And also, I think this is something that we rarely ever think of. When we talk about autism, we rarely ever ask ourselves, who is describing this autism? Who is telling the story of the autistic experience? And it is a radical move for us to begin looking inside us and asking us whether are we the right person to tell the story, or do we want to hear it from an autistic person who lives it every day to be the first informant of their life experiences? Why are you telling my story about me, for me, when I am standing, living, and breathing in this room? Why are you making programs and laws about me that governs my life without asking me first? Today, also with the advancement of technology, we cannot ever say anymore that we do not have the tools for the autistic people who cannot speak. More than ever now, all of these tools, and especially with AAC, augmented alternative communication method, is made available at the tips of your finger, and this is such a powerful tool. If we can revel in the written words of Shakespeare, Yeats, and Jane Austen, we can validate that speech is not the only way to leave a legacy as communication. And this is my life's advocacy. I have dedicated my entire life from here on to reframe how we think about autism and what's next for autism. The language that we use to talk about autism must change. The language we use as educators, as medical professionals, as allied health professionals, as the society, as you and I. There is much to be done in autism. There is so many areas that we need to look at to improve the quality of life and the dignity of the autistic community. But this is step one, to change how we talk about autism, because if you can change how you talk and view about autism, then you change the culture that we live in. By making this a conscious paradigm shift, to speak and story more respectfully, more kindly, and more accurately about the autistic community, we have the power to influence and change our very society's perception of autism and who we are as Malaysians, as humans on Earth at large. And we do this by also honoring the voices of the autistic community, by also giving us the equity of voice to shape the language about ourselves. It is with this power that we can do together to push that shift in literature, in media, our laws, our policies, our institution, and in the end, the very identity of the autistic that we are talking about. So how do we get there? Advocacy is such a large word, and it's a word that gets thrown around so often in the field of autism. But what is it really? And what is advocacy, and what is it to have a voice? So little is understood, and I want to say that I stand today on the shoulders of advocates who had advocated for the autistic rights and opportunities for autistics far longer than I ever have. I stand on the shoulders of the speech therapists who's fighting for more communication methods to be recognized. I'm standing on the shoulders of mothers fighting for the autistic children that they have for the same opportunities that you had the privilege to access. I'm standing on the shoulders of pediatricians who sees beyond that autism spectrum disorder label and revel in the joy that this autistic child finds such joy in doing things differently. And the goal of standing here today, and the last story I'm going to tell you, is for each and every one of you to walk away today as an advocate. And I hope that with a group of, hopefully a convert of advocates that I'm going to do today, with a stroke of a wand, that we could amplify and build a larger vessel for the voice for the autistic community. And I want to tell you a story about Bunny. This is Bunny. She is the most patient and joyous howling beagle that I've adopted, and she is the love of my life. What many don't know is when Bunny got sick, I was going through my assessment and diagnosis. I could never talk about autism without ever thinking about Bunny. She had a growth in her spleen, 11 centimeters in diameter, and it was hemangiosarcoma, and if you don't know that, it's a cancer that gets stuck to your blood veins and vessels, and it spreads very quickly. My dog was dying. My world fell apart. My heart was shattered in pieces. She was the very reason that I live and breathe to go to be where I am today. I went from one vet to another. I was doing scans after scans, blood results after blood results. I stopped everything that I had. I closed the business that I had. I closed the gallery that I had just so that I could be home, because I must save her. I must fight for her life. She has to live. I went all the way to Singapore and Malacca looking for different experts to tell me that my vet was wrong and Bunny will live. Every night, I was down on my knees begging God, please, let me take her place instead because I am the broken one. And I was desperate and I was on a mission. I pumped her with fluids 3 times a day. She was going through chemo. I was forcing 15 pills down her throat every time, every day for 3 times a day. We spend our days at the vet every day. I am armed with a folder full of her blood results, her scans, her medication schedule. I had it written down every single minute what she was doing every day. We stopped being Beatrice and Bunny. We were just a girl with a sick dog. And I thought that I was doing all the right things, that I was advocating for her, that I was her voice. Because she couldn't speak, so I was speaking to her, to every expert that there are, because I need her to live. And I keep telling her to please suck it up. This is just a bad patch, and we will get through this. And I will keep fighting for you until I cannot fight for you anymore. But guess what? She was still dying. I was put in a position with my vet where he told me, you have 2 choices right now. You could put her down or we could do a surgery that's not in your favor. And I was so lost. I didn't know what to do. And I think this was the very turning point where my vet sat me down and told me to make a list. Make a list of the life that Bunny has with you. What makes her Bunny, not what makes her a sick dog. We sat down and we made this list for him to make me understand the grief that I was going through, to understand the joy, to read beyond what I thought was for me. And he also told me this, and something that I hold on to, and that I will hold on to for the rest of my life. And he said this: what you decide to do, whatever decisions that you make, is how you will live and how you want to live your life. You need to listen and watch what she's telling you, and you carry her voice. You are her vessel. And with that, and with the fighter that we are, we went through the surgery, she survived, and we had a little more time. And I got it. I threw away a lot of the medications that made her more sick. We stopped running everywhere like, like chasing our own tail. And we started going out for walks again, and I started stepping out of house again, and we began to leave. On days that she's tired, I even forget about the medication and the fluids. We just lived. I started cooking for Bunny again, and this is the most amazing thing about my dog. The last few days before she died, she was even helping me pack flood relief bags. And on the day that she died, she was in my arms, at home, at peace, and she's lived a full life. And we weren't just a girl with a sick dog anymore. And I told Dr. Vijay after that Bunny's gone. And he said that, thank you. I saw you suffer, doing what you thought was for her when it was for you. You weren't listening to her voice. But now you did, and that's all that matters. And that's the difference between being an advocate and being that autistic voice. You don't have to be an autistic to be an autism advocate. You and I could do it together, and in honor of my life experience and the voice of me and the community that I stand for. And we must also remember, the autistic children today will one day grow up to be autistic adults. They will one day stand in my place to tell their stories and their voice. You and I have that power now to change the stories that they would tell. And we have the responsibility. It is our responsibility to be their advocates to help change the narrative of how we talk and language autism. You need to make this radical change with me. If we change how we talk about autism and the autistic community, and to include them in our conversations meaningfully, we change the way they view the world, the way they view society, and the way they view themselves. Take this opportunity to pave the way, to empower autistic children to grow up to be autistic adults who tell their triumphant stories of them being an astronauts and educators, teachers, doctors, filmmakers. Not for them to stand here today to tell you stories of how misunderstood they are, the misdiagnoses that they have, and the adversity and how they had to overcome their autistic traits to be accepted into the community. Don't let them build an identity around believing that they are not enough. Allow them the time and the space to grow into an identity that as an autistic adult, I am enough. We are all a sum of our experiences in life. We are not just one part. And that's the beauty of being a human. We can feel, we can run, we can smell, we can sing, we find joy, and we have sorrows. And in that is life. I am not just an autistic person. I'm also at the intersection of being a woman, a sister, a daughter, a feminist, a storyteller, an entrepreneur, an advocate, an activist. And the most important of all, I am part of the human race and I do belong. Thank you.